Katt wasn't done after the clips, the backlash, and the side eyes from industry gatekeepers. He did something no one expected. He sat down in camera with no jokes, no stage, no script, just Katt. A single camera, a dark room, a quiet mic. And he opened with a question most people don't ask out loud in Hollywood. Why is authenticity only dangerous when it's coming from a black man? He looked straight into the lens. Terrence Howard didn't say he hates anybody. He said he hates what they're doing to us. That ain't phobia. That's fatigue. The clip hit like thunder within hours. It was trending in all the places Hollywood pretends not to read. And the most chilling part? He started naming names. Not for exposure, but for patterns. He broke down role after role. Score-nominated performances. Breakout TV moments. Each one had the same undertone. Before they let you lead, they'll make you bend. Then came the question that shattered the quiet. How many white actors had to kiss a man to win their first award? The screen froze. No one answered. Because the numbers told the story. It wasn't about art. It was about access. And for Katt, that line had been crossed too many times for too many of his brothers. They don't want you to act. They want you to audition for permission. The clip was 11 minutes long, uncut, unfiltered. By morning, every media outlet was scrambling. Some tried to label it as anti-progress. Others tried to bury it. But the people, they shared it quietly, widely, powerfully, because they knew this wasn't about sexuality. It was about agency. And Katt wasn't backing down. He was backing truth. The silence didn't last. Hollywood's media machine, always slow to react but quick to protect its image, began moving behind the scenes. Not with direct statements, no. That would give Katt and Terrence too much credit. Instead, the game began the way it always had. Redirection. New articles started popping up, opinion pieces with carefully worded headlines. Is masculinity in crisis, or just evolving? Are black actors really being typecast, or are we just noticing it more? Katt Williams, speaking truth or burning bridges. They didn't attack him directly. They questioned the framing. They tried to put the fire back into a box with buzzwords and think pieces, but it was too late, because someone unexpected had stepped forward. IDRASELBA. At a London film event. A reporter asked him offhand, almost as a trap, if he had any thoughts on what Katt Williams and Terrence Howard said. Idris looked down, SMIRKED. Then he leaned into the mic and said, I think they said what a lot of us have been saying in private for 20 years. The room froze. He didn't elaborate. He didn't need to dot the video, hit social media within the hour. The caption read, Idris just joined the rebellion. And now it wasn't just Katt and Terrence, it was spreading. More black actors started doing interviews, not accusatory, but aware. One rising star said on a podcast, we're not anti-anything. We're just tired of being asked to be something before we're allowed to be someone. And that's what stuck. This wasn't a movement against gay roles. It wasn't about hate. It was about hierarchy, about how power in Hollywood often wears the mask of progress, while still holding the same leash back in LA. Studio execs started holding emergency meetings, not about representation, but about narrative control. They knew the formula was cracking. Because the moment Katt sat down and said, they don't give white boys dresses before they give depth, they lost the luxury of silence. The truth was out. And for the first time in a long time, people were finally listening to the ones who had been told to act first and speak never. The sit-down was inevitable. After weeks of speculation, clips, and rising tension, Katt Williams and Terrence Howard finally appeared side by side. No fluff, no handlers, no corporate logo behind them, just 2 chairs, 2 mics, and truth. The platform, not a talk show, not a major network. It dropped on a YouTube channel run by a young black journalist known for not pulling punches. 1.2 million subscribers and zero fear. The opening shot, Katt sitting back, legs crossed, gold chain peeking from under his jacket. Terrence, posture, tight but eyes calm, wearing that same half smile he always wears when he's about to say something uncomfortable but necessary. The interviewer didn't waste time. What's really going on? Is this about roles? Or is this about control? Terrence spoke first. It's about how early they test your silence. He looked off for a second, then back into the camera. You think you're being asked to act, but you're really being asked, will you let us shape how the world sees you before you ever show them who you are? Katt didn't blink. That's why they put the dress in your lap before they put your name on the call sheet. The clip hit 10 million views in 48 hours. It wasn't just trending. It was circulating. Barbershops, DMIs, studios, industry roundtables. Not because it was controversial, because it was true. Actors who had once been silent started speaking up in comments. Some said, "We've been waiting for this conversation." Others admitted, "We didn't want to risk losing what little we had." But the tide was turning because the audience was shifting too. People stopped laughing nervously at old clips. They started rewatching them, seeing how often certain actors were boxed in. How often they were cheered for roles that made them smaller, softer, silent before ever being celebrated for strength. Brilliance, complexity. One quote from Katt. And the video went nuclear. They want you to be visible, not powerful. Loud but not heard. Familiar but not dangerous. And somewhere in a talent agency meeting, a junior agent whispered what the execs didn't want to admit out loud. They're not trying to burn Hollywood down. They're trying to stop it from burning us. The fallout came fast, but not the kind Katt and Terrence feared. It wasn't cancellation. It was correction. Hollywood didn't issue apologies. It never does, not directly. But it began to adjust in the only language it truly speaks. Control of the narrative. Casting breakdowns quietly changed. Where once there were coded phrases like flamboyant energy and gender-bending comedy, new ones appeared: grounded masculinity, internal complexity, subtle vulnerability. A well-known agency released a press memo to their reps. We support full identity range for Black talent. Lead with character, not costume. Publicly, it looked like progress. But behind the curtain, executives were panicking. One Netflix insider leaked an email from a development executive. "We need to find a project with Katt before someone else does. If we wait too long, he controls the table." Another replied, "Too late. He already is the table." Meanwhile, the sit-down clip spawned a second wave. A-list voices stepped in. Mahershala Ali reposted a clip with no caption, just a flame emoji. Daniel Kaluuya liked it, then tweeted, "You can't talk about freedom if you only give us cages with better lighting." Don Cheadle wrote a full op-ed in The Hollywood Reporter, titled, "The Role I Turned Down and Why It Took Me 20 Years to Say So." In it, he revealed how early in his career he was offered a breakthrough part, but only if he played fierce, but not threatening. Said no. Didn't work for a year after. The conversation had exploded, not just in Hollywood, but in homes, on college campuses, in media theory classes. Katt and Terrence had cracked the formula not by begging for better roles, but by exposing the rules of the game. And Hollywood, it was scrambling to rewrite them in real time, not to empower Black men, but to keep from being exposed again. But this time, it's too late. The power had already left the table, and it was building its own stage. The docuseries announcement came quietly. No press junket, no red carpet, just a 2-minute trailer uploaded without warning to YouTube under the title, "Before the Role. The Cost of Visibility, Black Screen, Soft Breathing." Then Katt's voice, "Before they hand you the script. Already watching how far you'll bend." Cut to Terrence Howard staring directly into the camera. No expression. You don't get to lead until they're sure they've made you small. Then clips. Silent moments from award-winning films. Black men in dresses. Black men in comic relief. Black men crying, begging, shuffling, performing, overlaid with the question, how many performances are we applauding that were never given with consent? The trailer ended with Katt and Terrence seated side by side again. Same chairs. Different mood. Katt looked up. This ain't about hate. This is about pattern. And pattern is the most dangerous kind of lie because it wears truth like a costume. Release date. JUNETEENTH. The internet exploded. Within 48 hours, the trailer had 22 million views. Students requested to screen it at HBCUs. Celebrities started resharing it without captions, just the link. Studios went quiet. Agents started reading scripts twice. Because this was no longer just a viral moment. It was now a record. A public archive of what black men in Hollywood had swallowed, laughed through, and apologized for to survive. A final clip from the trailer showed Mahershala Ali's voice off screen. I didn't say no because I hated the role. I said no because I didn't see myself in it. And that's what scared them. And then black screen. What? White letters before they gave us the spotlight. They tested how much darkness we could stand. Katt didn't say another word publicly. After that, he didn't have to. The docuseries was already doing what they tried to stop him from doing his whole career, telling the truth unapologetically. And with receipts, ChatGPT said, the premiere wasn't held at the Dolby, not at Cannes, not even in LA. It was held in Atlanta, in a historic black-owned theater where the curtains were velvet. The seats creaked when you leaned back, and the energy in the room was electric ancestral. No tuxedos, no press wall, no red carpet. But the guest list. Powerful. Katt arrived quietly, dressed in all black. No entourage, no chain. Terrence followed, sharp suit, no smile, just presence. Then came the wave. Ava DuVernay, Mahershala, J. Cole, Viola Davis, Donald Glover. Even Dave Chappelle, who rarely does appearances, stood at the back of the room, hat low, eyes forward. They weren't there to support a film. They were there to witness a shift. When the lights dimmed, the audience didn't cheer. They braced. Because before the role wasn't entertainment, was evidence. The room sat in silence for 91 minutes. No soundtrack, no narrator. Just stories, unedited, uncomfortable. Undeniable, actors recounting auditions that turned into psychological traps. Agents pushing roles that were for exposure, not for respect. Writers admitting they were told to add feminine flair to black male leads just to balance the room. But the moment that broke the silence came in the final minutes. Katt looked into the camera and said, we weren't asking to avoid hard roles. We were asking to avoid being the punchline before we ever got to be the lead. When the credits rolled, no one clapped. They stood, not in applause, in agreement. Backstage, a representative from the NAACP handed Katt an envelope. A surprise, Anne. Impact Legacy Award for contribution to media equity and cultural accountability. When Katt got on stage to accept it, he looked out at the crowd of faces, some crying, some still processing. He held the award up once, then set it gently on the podium. I appreciate this. But if the truth needs a trophy, it means we ain't listened to it soon enough. He stepped down, left the building before pictures could be taken, because this wasn't about legacy anymore. It was about liberation. The shift wasn't dramatic. It was surgical. In the weeks following the premiere of Before the Roll, Hollywood didn't collapse. It recalibrated, not out of moral awakening, but out of necessity. Because for the first time in decades, the audience wasn't asking for better roles. They were demanding better treatment. Streaming numbers shifted. New shows starring young black actors, complex, unapologetically masculine, vulnerable without being mock-spiked in views. Writers' rooms got quieter when storylines veered into stereotype. Casting directors stopped using phrases like urban edge and fluid energy as code. And then something unthinkable happened. A major studio one that had previously ignored the conversation entirely announced a massive series reboot. The twist. It would be led by a black actor, no forced flamboyance, no comedic sidekick energy. No sexual exploitation, just a powerful dramatic lead written with range, depth, and control. A name had already been attached. Terrence Howard. The internet went into orbit. Not because he returned, but because he returned on his own terms. And in the press release, the showrunner said one line that made it all clear. We were never short on talent. We were just afraid to write for truth. That quote made headlines around the world, in schools, in industry roundtables, in back rooms where power had never been questioned. Actors once told to play it safe were now being encouraged to play it straight. And by straight, it didn't mean sexuality. They meant unfiltered, no bending, no shrinking. Just power. Back. In Atlanta, Katt Williams stayed quiet. He didn't tour, didn't speak, didn't post. He didn't need to, because he had done what the industry spent decades avoiding. He flipped the casting room upside down without ever stepping back into it. And every young black actor walking into their first audition now walked in with a new awareness that they weren't there to perform a version of what the industry wanted. They were there to own what the industry could no longer deny the truth. And no one, not even Hollywood, could cast that out again. The shift reached Broadway, then London, then Netflix, green rooms. It wasn't just about black men on screen anymore. It became about who wrote the scripts, who approved the scenes, and who profited from every compromise. And suddenly, Katt's impact wasn't a cultural moment, it was a quiet revolution. Terrence Howard. Once boxed in and pushed out by the system he helped elevate, announced something unexpected at a press conference in Harlem. He would fund a new acting conservatory, exclusively for black men. Not a workshop, a school. A sanctuary built not to train actors how to survive Hollywood, but to teach them how to resist it. The crowd stood before he even explained. When he finally did, his voice cracked. They taught us how to cry on cue. Now we're going to teach our sons how to say no on command. It was called the Marlon Project, named after Marlon Riggs, not the fame. The fight. By month's end, hundreds applied. No agents, no handlers, just artists who were tired of asking for permission to be whole. Back in LA, the whispers turned into planning sessions. One showrunner, white, powerful, deeply connected, sent out a memo to his writing team that simply said, from now on, if we write a role for a black man, that wouldn't work for Sidney, Poitier, Denzel, or Chadwick. We're starting over. It was a line that got screenshotted, shared, spread, and slowly Hollywood began to confess what it always knew. They weren't just afraid of black masculinity, they were addicted to controlling it. But now, that grip was slipping. Not because Katt screamed, but because he whispered into a mic. The whole building leaned in. It was the Oscars. The one night a year Hollywood pretends it listens. The red carpet was the same. Sequins, smiles, soft questions. But the air felt different, tighter, like truth had crept into the seams of every tuxedo. The nominees were stacked, predictably diverse, strategically balanced. But there was one name, one category that the industry couldn't bury under fashion. Headlines, Best Documentary Feature. Before the role, directed by a first-time black filmmaker. Funded independently. Backed by the two men Hollywood spent years trying to sideline. Katt and Terrence didn't walk the carpet. They walked through it. No stylists. No handlers. It's just silence. Not performative, strategic. When the category was announced, the audience leaned forward not because they didn't know who would win, but because they knew who should. The moment stretched, and then the Oscar goes to before the role. The room froze. Not because it was a surprise, because no one knew how to clap for it. Without indicting themselves, Katt didn't rush the stage. He stood, straightened his jacket, walked slow. Eyes steady. No smile. Terrence followed. They took the mic, but not the moment. Katt looked out into the crowd of polished people and said, "This statue means a lot. Not because it validates the film, but because it proves the lie had a limit." Gasps. Half the crowd didn't know whether to cheer or check their contracts. He continued. "For decades, we were told there were roles we had to play to matter. And we believed it because the rent was due. But tonight this is rent paid in full." Terrence stepped forward, voice clear. No script in hand. To every young black actor watching, you don't have to let them shape you before they show you. Make your own mirror. Don't flinch when it reflects something they can't profit from. Standing ovation. Not from everyone. Some clapped slowly, others stared, but the noise was real. And for the first time in Oscar history, the truth was louder than the applause. As Katt and Terrence walked off stage, arm in arm, a young actor backstage whispered to a friend, "They didn't just win. They cracked the screen from the inside. They tried to spin it within 48 hours of before the role winning the Oscar." A major streaming platform, one that had passed on the documentary during its pitch phase, announced a new, bold initiative focused on diverse representation in masculine storytelling. A press release dropped like confetti. "We're investing $100 million in elevating underrepresented voices in the male black experience. We believe in freedom of expression and challenging outdated stereotypes. We invite creators of all backgrounds to submit stories that reflect every kind of black masculinity." It was polished, professional, hollow, because the people they wanted had already walked away from that table and were building their own. The backlash was instant. Screenshots of the platform's past casting calls resurfaced, showing years of coded language, canceled pilots, and pressure campaigns to dilute stories before they ever reached camera. Katt didn't say a word. Terrence didn't tweet. But the younger generation, they ate. One indie filmmaker responded, "You can't spend decades shaving our stories down to stereotypes and then offer us funding after we funded our own healing." Another actor tweeted, $100 million in reaction ain't liberation. It's liability. Coverage. And just like that, the campaign flopped. No one submitted. No one showed up to the round table. List stars passed politely. Okay. And TikTok turned it into a meme when the ops tried to co-produce your freedom. Kate. He was already gone. A quiet post hid his official page. No caption. Just a black and white photo of him in a hoodie, back turned, sitting on a soundstage chair with 3 words carved into the wood. That was enough. Fans flooded the comments. Thousands, no drama, no demands. Just gratitude because he didn't need to keep talking. He had changed the conversation permanently. Weeks later, at an underground film festival in Oakland, someone played an unreleased audio recording, Katt's final on-mic reflection before disappearing from the public eye. No audience, just a mic. One light bulb swinging. His voice, they'll forget the names. They'll misquote the interviews. But they'll never forget how it felt when we told the truth and didn't ask permission. Then, static.silence.ana legacy that didn't just shift the culture, it freed it.